Alright, this is the third video in the Programming Layers of Abstraction series. I'm continuing on. If you haven't seen the first two, I'd suggest checking them out because I'm starting where I left off. So, to give you an example, this is where we are right now, the 8th save out of 20. I've just added a jump capability, but only for my playing character. The NPC computer controlled character doesn't do that. The pixel testings against the scene is a little better, but there's still some issues with it. And that's what we got. So let's go off. And we had previously just looked at the Get Off My Head version 7, and now we'll be doing version 8. So, start off shebang line, how to kick it off from the command line, the imports, the global variable for the size, importing SDL, loading the SF sprite images, which are